Good morning, Terrans. Here we are on a nice and sunny Saturday morning in Georgia on the 2nd of June. This is your favorite alien speaking, and I would like to do a video for my cohorts. Uh, so this is for my uh, partners in the Federation and cohorts, as you call them here. Doing this in your language so you can hear what I'm telling them. And today's video, I want to entitle it Terrans and Their Agendas. So here we go. Dear comrades and friends, I'm doing this video to tell you what I found on planet Earth here. So when you're doing the research, you'll understand it better. I'm doing it in the Earth language of English because that seems to be the most common language on the planet. And since I was stuck here, uh, and I don't know what time, when I'll get back there. So, um, but by the time I get back there, I know that they would have been clobbered by the mushka because I would have done nothing. They have shown me nothing to this point and nothing when I get back, I'm assuming, because they haven't changed. I know I'll get a slap on the wrist for violating the Prime Directive, but anyway, I'll do this video on them. Terrans is what they're called. System of Sol, that's a local name. And agendas, because that's how they operate here. Something we gave up a thousand of their years ago. Okay, to tell you how it is, I know we read our history of our ancestral planet, but we never quite understood it, remember? So here it goes. Hopefully this will help us understand us and them. Um, this planet called Earth has different nation states, which is equivalent to our territories that we used to have in our ancestral planet, and empires. They got actually four big empires here now, currently. The Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, the United States, and, I guess you could call Western Europe, which is a hegemony of different states, as they would call it. Anyway, they got different agendas. The Russian Federation has an agenda of trying to intimidate people, and they're scared of their borders, so they're trying to uh, subjugate people on their borders so they don't have anybody invading them. So they got a particular scary problem with borders. The Chinese want to control everything in their territory, so the South China Sea would be theirs. But they don't understand that the more territory you have, the more problems you have. Plus, they're also burning the candles that both end. Um, the ruling power here is what they call capitalism. We would call profit, but where we're from. And the United States, it's the ruling power. So they say. They're declining, but they still say they're ruling. Anyway, uh, the agenda for the United States, well, what agenda? They got all kinds of them. It's the most nation state I've seen with agenda here, agenda there, and there is no such thing as Americans. It's slash American or dash American, but they don't even know what an American is. So until they realize what they are, they're going to have all these agendas. You have what they call African American, that's people with dark skin, who have remember how our ancestors in the ancestral planet on Tushkar, the landmass Tushkar. Remember that? Where they were similar in pigmentation color, but not quite as dark as the ones here. Said that they were owed big time, and that's all they for centuries after century after century. They just kept harping to the pink, which were the dominant. Like the whites are dominant here, or remember the pinks were dominant there. And they were saying, "Oh well, you owe us for centuries of barbarism and centuries of enslavement. Uh, yeah, you owe us." Remember that? Well, the African Americans here under the United States have that same stupid attitude. So, uh, you know how that goes. They'll lose it anyway because the other so-called racists, as they call them here, which really they don't understand, they're just one race with different pigmentations, but hey, they don't get it. Uh, the Asians have their own agendas. The Latins, which are people from the continent they call Central and South America, have their own agendas. Um, and then you have the whites, which originally overran this continent with the what they called Native Americans were a group of Asians that occupied this land for millennia. Anyway, they became known as Indians here because one guy messed up where he was going for. That's a different story, but anyway, like I told you, the Terrans are pain in the ass. They got so much problems, I don't even know which way is up. But, for our thing here, the whites have a different agenda. You got some whites that consider themselves uh, supremacist, and some that are right wing. And what I mean by that means that they are like the Tusha from our other, the pink uh, tone people. We'll call it Tushans. Um, anyway, they they think that they are the supreme beings here, which they're not. I mean, they had to bring black people from the continent of Africa because they couldn't sustain themselves on this new world. And the American Indians were not going to be their slaves. Heck, they were clobbering them when they could, which they should have clobbered them even more. Anyway, um, so the whites started to rule, and they did for about 2 centuries. But now they're the minority. The only problem is that the only thing sustaining and close to being human is the white way of doing things. That is the way of the planet. They are so implanted that way that other races, it's like our pinks. They implanted the way to do things that we borrowed some of it to form our federation, and then the other people. You remember we had all the, and then when we had the 25 people, they decided, hey, there's not going to be no more pink, red, white, yellow, or whatever the color was. Remember? And it was just going to be Terrans. Where the Terrans haven't got to that point. There's no such thing as a Terran. Because the Chinese, the Americans, the Russians have their own things, and then again, they're fighting themselves because there's other people in their territory, like the Russians have Chechens and all other people, Uzbekistanis and all kinds of stuff. The Chinese have the Tibetans and other people that don't like the way they do things. And the Americans, well, like I said, they're slash this, slash that, and slash that. So they got all kinds of problems and all kinds of agendas. So this is why you cannot understand the Terrans, because there is no goodwill towards men, as they call it down here. Um, like I said, you'll find my other video where I tried to explain to the Terrans that the guy that tried to tell them was Charles Dickens, but they threw him to File 13, as they do anything on this planet. And by the way, I'll do a video on File 13 and explain to you what that is one day. But fellow cohorts here from the Federation, uh, I hope you understand this And when you read the Terrans and all their records, well, as they say on this planet, you might got to take a Tylenol because you'll need it to read them, okay? And that's what you Terrans, you'll throw this in file 13 as usual. Anyway, thanks.